Sport saved my life. When I was 14 years of age, my father, he had me shooting clay pigeons with a little hand trap. It's very simple. And I could do it. And in shooting, suddenly, I could do something as good as anybody else. I went to a competition, my very first competition in Scotland, and I won it. My first ever competition, and the trophy was this big. It was the biggest thing that ever happened to me. Bigger than winning the British Grand Prix, bigger than winning the World Championship, because for the first time, I was better than other people. So every young dyslexic needs to have a chance of doing something that gives them pride. And I think dyslexics, when they find something they're good at, do they try harder, and then they succeed with it. Motor racing safety was probably the biggest thing I ever did in motorsport, or even my whole life. Because Helen, my wife, and I counted 57 people, friends, all get killed driving racing cars during my time. It had to stop. The Nürburgring in Germany, the greatest racetrack in the world, 187 corners per lap, 14.7 miles per lap, hideously dangerous. More people have died at the Nürburgring than any racetrack in the world. And we had a meeting in London. I said, if they're not going to do anything, we shouldn't go. Because if we make a demonstration against them, the other circuits will then recognize that there has to be something done. And we did it. When you find something you've got to do, you do it with much more focus, much more commitment. And that's still going on in my life to this very day. I try harder. You know, I have to admit that I didn't know anything about dementia or Alzheimer's until my own wife got it. And I thought, my God, we've got to try and do something here. In my lifetime, I want to do it. Now, whether I'll make it or not, but I'm sure I'm going to change it in some way. And when you're dyslexic, you look at it in a different way. You go about it in a different way. And you've got to think out the box. Because if you keep thinking like it was yesterday, and that's the problem. You can't think like yesterday. My greatest skill is attention to detail. I'm good at attention to detail. And when your attention to detail is good, you're picking up things that other people don't think are important, but these are the things, the little things, that suddenly stops the racing car. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to explain, when I became a racing driver, why a car was doing this instead of this. I could talk to the mechanics and engineers of how the car was behaving itself. It took me longer to explain it, perhaps, than most people, but it was probably more vivid because I was seeing it as the problem that was stopping me from getting pole position or a better starting position at least, or winning a race. School for me, I left school failing my 11 plus, I think, twice or three times, with little or no education. Right now, Jackie Stewart could not fill in a driver application form. I couldn't do it. I just cannot do it. It's a jungle. Children shouldn't be embarrassed that they can't read or write correctly. Let's do something different. Let's find something you're good at. It doesn't matter what it is. And you can then see the giants who, you know, Steve Jobs and people like that, who suddenly create new things in the world that nobody's ever seen. Leonardo Da Vinci was dyslexic. Einstein was dyslexic. For goodness sake, what can you do better than that as an example? You would almost say that you would like your children to be dyslexic.